Yes, please. Good afternoon. Please, I'm
Good
person of
afternoon.
Mr. Joshua, a fourth-year student within history.
Hello, everyone. My name is Osai Steven. I'm a final year student of history. I want to join your class today so that we share ideas together.
Hello, I'm the person
Hello.
of Eugene as a final year student. I want to
Welcome.
join your class today. Thank you.
Welcome.
Hello, I'm the person of Abu Abibata, final year history student, and I'm glad joining you today for the class.
Welcome.
Thank you. Okay.
How are we?
Yeah.
The boss is not.
Yes.
So you have taken this. That's right. Stay in.
Okay. Okay. At the moment, Doc is not around, but can we start with some discussing?
What do you want to talk about?
Okay, we want to know briefly on the topic, Asante Empire. And I want to know, do you know any history about it?
Yes, about the Asante and the Suriname diaspora, you mean? The link?
Yes, please.
Oh, yes, we know about it. As a small child, already people from Suriname went to Ghana.
Yeah.
People from the interior regions went to Ghana to do some investigation on their roots. And they came back with proper video material. So we knew already that there's a family link there. And we knew that we are one as brothers and sisters connected because they could understand each other in the same language. They were spoken to each other. And I remember that the man who came down there, the king who came there in Suriname, when he listened to the chief from the interior, say, tribe, not tribe, a clan was talking to him, he could understand him. He started crying because he said, I can understand him. He's my brother. We are family. And that was a melting pot that everybody was flabbergasted. So yes, we knew about it. But my question is, did you know about it before you studied this? Did you know
Yes,
about the link?
we've been taught before in class.
Okay.
So, and we are talking about the topic.
Oh, you are done.
Yes. Oh,
Yes, so they will come in at some point. So they will sit here and enjoy the lecture as well. And then all right. So as indicated, and I've already shared the outline with you, we are looking at Asante diasporan relations, and the aim is to explore the historical and cultural connections between Asante and the diaspora. Hopefully, the emphasis will be on Suriname. We start the discussions with the theme on the inhabitants of the territory of Ghana. And our source material, which has also been shared, is F.K. Boa, History of Ghana, 1998. So it's important to note that the people in Ghana are distinguished either based on the languages that they speak or the political organization. We can also look at it or the distinctions based on the social organization or cultural institutions. But most of the time, we are distinguished based on the language that we speak, instead of the political organization, where some groups, especially those in the South, are classified as centralized groups with a single authority, and then those in the northern part of Ghana as mostly acephalous in terms of their history, without a single authority controlling the polity that they have. Then we can look at some of their social relationships, some being patrilineal, others being matrilineal groups. But as mentioned, the key distinction between the people in Ghana tends to focus more on distinctions relative to linguistics or languages. And so in this vein, linguistically, the people of Ghana are composed of two main language groups. That is the GUR, that's G-U-R, and then the Kwak groups of languages. These are the main groupings that we do classify the people in the country under. And so those who speak the GUR language are mostly found in the northern part of Ghana. And then in the southern part, we have those who speak the Kwa groups of languages. So this is the map of Ghana indicating the linguistic groups and their geographical location as you can find it in modern Ghana. Even though we accept that now there has been a lot of movements, and so you have metropolitan areas or areas where you can find these groups all converging, okay, especially in the capital cities. But traditionally, the map represents the home of some of these classified language groups that you can find. So for the Kwak groups, okay, you have 45% of the population made up of the Akan. According to F.K. Boy's document. And we have the Ga and Adangbe. That is about 9% of the total population. And then we have the Ewe. Okay, so the Kwa is made up of these three main sub-groupings. The Akans, the Ga Adangbes, and the Ewes. And as you can see from the slide, the Akans are in the majority. The Akans include all these other groups of people, or these other groups that I'm going to mention here, make up the Akan population of 45%. And so we have the Asante. So the Asantes are Akans, and we speak the Twi language. Okay. And we have the Fantis, we have the Hanta people, we have the Guans, the Bono, Achim people, the Akwamus, the Kwau, Akwiapem, Sefi, and then the Nzema people. So these 11 subgroups make up the Akan linguistic group of groups of languages. And as I mentioned, you find these people occupying mostly the southern part of Ghana. Then we have the Ga Adangbe people, also made up of the Ga people, the Shai, or those we call the Adangbe. So this is Ga Adangbe. And then we have the Ada and then the Krobo people as well. And you see that the Ga Adangbes occupy mostly the coastal belt of Ghana, and then the Krobos are in the modern day what we call the Eastern region. And then we have the distinct Ewe group, which is 13%. So for them, we have one polity. They speak only the Ewe language. As mentioned, you find other people who inhabit the same geographical area as the Ewes, but they don't see themselves as Ewe. So the Ewe as an ethnic group that belongs to the main group of language represents polity 13%. Now they are in the Volta region of Ghana. Okay. So you have these groups of languages under the Kwa main language group with all the distinctions. Our emphasis will be on the Asantes, as I have indicated. So here I want us to take note that these Asantes are part of the Akan groups and they are in the majority in Ghana. And when you go to the north, I mentioned that we have the Go language groups also classified into three main subgroupings. The Guma people, and they make up 4% of the population. And we have the Drusis, accounting for about 2% of the population. The Moldagmani, accounting for about 15% of the population, with all their subgroupings. So we have the Kokomba, the Moba, and the Basari people, who are all Guma people. Also, like I've mentioned, they are in the northern part of the country. The Drusis are essentially the Sisala people. We have the Kasena people, the Vagala, the Tampolisi, and then the Mo people. Then we have the largest group of the Go subgroupings, the Mo Dagmani, and they comprise of the Nanumba, the Dagomba, the Mamprusi, the Wala people, the Brusa people, Frafra, and the Talensi and the Kusasis. And so essentially, we are establishing the fact that we have an admixture of linguistically distinct groups of people that inhabit the region of modern Ghana. And so this gives us the background to the issues that we want to discuss today. If anybody has questions on the linguistic classification of the people, we can do that so that the students can also come in, share their views. Then we will zoom into looking at the Asantes into detail. Class, Maureen, Satata, if you are there.
I have a question.
I am
So
here.
what is, oh, hello. Hi, Maureen.
Hi, everybody. Welcome, everybody. I'm happy that you are all in the class. I'm very curious.
Yes.
Which language do you speak? I could not write the names of the students, but can you tell me which language do you speak and from which area, region are you from?
Language you speak.
Okay.
You mention and name the language.
Okay. So
Yeah.
my name is Gafar Abubakar, and I speak the Bani language, which this afternoon. So if you want to say good afternoon, we say Antri, meaning good afternoon. So and I'm
Antri.
from the north. Yes. Tamale.
The North.
Yes, so I'm a student in the reading and show in historical studies. Thank you.
Okay, Akwaba.
My question is, Nimro, is what language does everybody speak to understand one another in this region then? Which is
Okay,
the dominating language? Yeah. So they could
yes,
interact.
the Chi language is a dominant one.
Yes.
Yes, but then I think English as the official language, it's become the most common one around as well. But however, if you look at the population classification, then you know that the Chi language, I think, is widely spoken across the length and breadth of the country.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so the next candidate will do that.
My name is Stephen Osei. I'm an Ashanti, and Ashanti forms part of the Akan group. And
yeah.
yeah, and then the language I speak is Twi, as Doc said. Yeah, so that's what I want to say for now. So I want to teach you one simple thing. Akwaba in Twi means you're welcome. So keep that.
Afawa. Oh, that's beautiful. Afawa.
Akwaba.
Akwaba.
Yeah, good afternoon. I'm person of Mr. Joshua. I'm from the Fanti, and the Fanti also from the Akan group. Yes. Yes, please.
Fanti.
Fanti, please.
Interesting.
Good afternoon once again. I'm Abiba, and I fall under the Gurusi group, which is Sisale.
Sale.
Yes.
Sisale.
Wow.
Beautiful.
Okay.
So this afternoon, in my language, we greet Bewisi.
One more time.
Bewisi.
Bewisi.
Yes.
Beautiful words.
Where are you from and how do you speak?
I'm Suleiman Mohammed Awad, and I'm a teaching assistant in the Department of History and Political Studies. And I'm from also, I'm Hausa. So I don't, yeah. Beautiful. Technically, I'm from Nigeria and not Ghana.
So how do I say welcome in Hausa language?
Sandazua, yeah.
Sandazua.
Yeah.
Sandazua.
Isn't Hausa a language for relationships? Is Hausa not a big language group that many people speak?
Yes, but it's mostly spoken in the northern, in Nigeria, northern Nigeria.
Northern Nigeria, that's true, yes.
And also in Ghana, among the northern part of Ghana is also dominant there.
Northern part of Ghana. Is it like Swahili in the east, I must think? The approach of the language Hausa? Is it a big group speaking it, like millions of people, I wonder?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because these are all, that's the impact of that's migration, that's before colonization.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why even in recent times in northern part of Ghana, majority of the people speak or they are being influenced by the language.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Great. Any other question for them? Or yeah, Elizabeth.
Yes, thank you. My question is more like, should we see Akan as a tribe, or is it not? Is it what's the name for it? I understand that it's a language group.
Yeah.
Was it especially back in the days, was it like a tribe or
An empire?
No, so the Akan should be seen as a language group, and then perhaps the subgroupings can be seen as the tribal groupings. Okay, so we can actually talk about the Asante Empire, and then we will be able to identify that group of people as such, and then look at the extent of their empire and so forth. But we don't have the Akan empire of a sort. But then, but then under the Akan main language group, then we have all these subgroupings underneath it. Lisbeth.
Yes, okay, thank you for the explanation.
Okay. Any other, or can we move on from this? So there somebody asked which of the languages was common or commonly spoken in the region of modern Ghana now, and I mentioned the Twi language, and this is actually impacting on the discourses as to having a national language in Ghana. There is this attempt to try and see if we could do away with using English as an official language, which is a colonial trait, to using one of these language groups as the official language. But then there's always this inability to reach a consensus, because it appears that then the dominant language group will be seen as probably superior to the others, and so we've not been able to settle on that. So what we do now is to try to teach the students, especially at the basic school levels, to be able to understand most of these languages as the students themselves decide to learn. And so at the basic school levels, some are reading Ga language, Adangbe, Chi, and so forth and so on, so that we'll be able to communicate among ourselves locally as such. But then there is that strong push to make the Chi language an official language in the region of modern Ghana, but we are not there yet. Right. So if we can move on.
I have just a comment on that. So it was brought to my attention that like Haiti uses Creole, French Creole as their official, like they use their actual language as all their official documents and things are actually written in Creole. They don't use French, right? Whereas in Suriname, they use Dutch as I believe as the official. A lot of places, the colonial countries use the colonial language, but I think that's like one of the only examples I've come across where they don't use the colonial language, or if they do, is a rendition of the colonial language, because obviously all the African languages that they would have come with have been decimated into the Creole.
Oh, okay. Right. So yes, the official language in Ghana is still English, and we are documenting everything in the language. But recently, we've been having those conversations around the need to make one of these group of languages the dominant one that we will all communicate in, right? Yes, so if there is no other on this is just the introduction. We move on to the main discussions for today, which is Asante Empire. So we want to provide an overview of the Asante Empire to you. Right. The oral traditions have it that Santis migrated from Bono, which is currently an area in what we call the Bono Ahafo region. These oral stories are often contested, as some other people argue that they were indigenes of Asante Manso and that they did not migrate. But then authors like F.K. Boa and Adum Boahin will all agree that this is where the Bono area is the cradle of all the Akan people, including the Asantes that we are looking at today. The Asante Empire became more extensive than other Akan kingdoms, and that by the beginning of the 19th century, the empire covered over 70% of the land area of modern Ghana. In fact, it even extended to the region of modern-day Ivory Coast. And this should help us understand why the Asantes, in terms of cultural heritage in Ghana, continue to dominate the discourses. When we are looking at culture, it's the Asante group that is coming up compared to all the other groups that we have mentioned today. Basically because of the extent of the empire in the pre-colonial era. And as mentioned, they occupy some substantial space in the region of modern Ghana, and as such, exerting that influence over a lot more regions. And so recently, if you've been following events at Manshia, for instance, you have chiefs coming all over the place, as far as from Dagomba in the northern region, to come and pay homage to the Asante and to participate in their activities because of the history of its expansion and its size before the 19th century. So it is, if you look at it historically, then you understand why, when it comes to culture and tradition in the region of modern Ghana, people look up to the Asantes. Again, they have managed to maintain its culture and tradition over a long period of time, and that the people of the region continue to show much more allegiance to the Asante. And so it gives them that sort of, in quotes, superiority in terms of cultural heritage in the region of modern Ghana. As mentioned, their influence lasted much longer than each of the groups. So for instance, Asantes were conquered and ruled at some point in their history by the Dintres and the Achins, but the period of the reign was short because quickly they will reorganize, solidify, and then go back to defeat those that used to control their polity. And they were able to, from the time of Osei Tutu, expand and have control. And their activity was only truncated by the coming of the Europeans and by the establishment of British authority. And so for a long period of time, Asante had emerged as having control over the whole region of modern Ghana. Okay. And that gives them some edge over some of the other ethnic groups or tribes that we have examined. So as indicated here, they emerged as a great kingdom and Osei Tutu from 1695 all the way up to the 19th century when the British colonized the region of modern Ghana and began to put measures in place to reduce Asante's economic, social, and political power in the region. And so the map that I have shown there, the green part, all representing the extent of Asante's political rule over the region of modern Ghana. So if you look at it, then you see that its authority extended beyond the borders as created after the partitioning to the Volta region on your right-hand side, and then to some parts of the Ivory Coast. The middle part that has a brown color is the center, that is Kumasi, the center of authority, but then their influence will extend over all the regions as I've already indicated. Lashanda, you were writing. Can I move on, or is there a question? I can go on. All right, thank you. So Asante has become the central focus of Akan culture and civilization because the people have maintained their rich cultural practices and institutions in their very pure form. And so in terms of Asante culture, it's their celebration of the festivals, inheritance, authority and rule in all aspects in land litigations and so forth and so on. You see that very little has changed. Recently, we heard that Asante making a strong statement that, for instance, all the lands in Asante belongs to him, and that no court, right, in Ghana can, for instance, overturn his decisions on matters concerning some of these things. And it appears that is the case, because when we have land litigations with some chiefs, at the end of the day, people prefer to deal with those matters in the Asante courts than in the should I say the state courts, because they have traditionally been the custodians of the land, the chiefs, and they still wield much of that power. And so, and they continue to maintain that culture even up to date. And you can come message it on that. Okay.
Thank you very much. And regarding what Doc just shared with you, and we can also learn a similar case in the north, as in the northern region. I had a paper on that with him that we work on the legal systems regarding the northern people of Ghana, particularly the Gomba people, and looking at the same land issues. Most of the chiefs were like, most of matters relating to land has to be solved in the court. So when asked why, they could relate to the same issues that most of these lands were given to them by their ancestors, and understanding from the oral tradition, we could see most of the knowledge about lands has been transferred orally from chiefs from generation to generation. So any matter, and looking at the court system or the Western court system has been kind of a recent setup. So when it comes to the matters regarding to lands, they properly had the knowledge as compared to the Western court system talking about land issues. Thank you.
And then the other legal issues that we look at.
Okay, yes. So regarding the legal issues, to also look at the marriage, we also consider a whole lot of stuff within the northern part of Ghana. And looking at the marriage, for instance, we could understand from their indigenous perspective, even though the Western court system or the Western jurisprudence changed most of their legal systems of their practices that were regarded as legal in the society, even though the contemporary thinkers feel like they are kind of barbaric acts as they perceive. For instance, one having the right to among the Dogombes, they had a tradition or a legal underpinnings which seeks to one asking a lady in marriage at birth. So maybe if a small child like being given birth to a baby girl, one could pay a penny or a money to say that, okay, that's his wife. And maybe when the child grows and the man is not old, he could take that girl as his wife, or maybe take that girl and give to his son or anyone he felt like. And that was kind of the practices then. But then looking at it in the contemporary times, you could see it limits the lady's rights or the female child rights in terms of having the right to choose among maybe the person has grown that he has the right to choose, okay, I don't love this person, I love this person. But then it limits their right of choice then. So I think the European system also made it look like, okay, limiting this kind of practices in contemporary times gives also the way to understand certain practices within the contemporary settings of our legal systems. And considering the land issues, also if you look at very deep, when the Europeans came, they couldn't understand some practices, how lands were severe among the people. And yes, the land tenure system, for instance. And if you look at it, that maybe if you are somebody who comes there to farm, you could be given a land to farm. And among what they could take from you is that after you farm, then what you get on the land, you give some to the chiefs. And after maybe you've been there for 10 years, 20 years, when you're leaving, you leave the land and go. They will not take you anything, they will not charge you. But the contemporary land tenure system has to do with when the Europeans came to bring about land leases, having 99 years, having some years attached to it. And most of these studies we could learn from Garrett Austin's book talking about the Asante land tenure system, how the European systems have changed it. So I think Doc will talk more about this, our indigenous system that even the European system couldn't understand. But then looking at the interplay between the two, I think it has really bring about understanding more of our traditional way of doing a lot of stuff in contemporary times. Yes.
Yes, so we've also maintained in the pure form our fashion. I'm sure most of you are aware of the kente. That
Kente.
Yes, the kente cloth, which is yes, something that is also part of the Asante culture and normally used in most of our events, right? And so these people in all facets have managed to maintain the cultural heritage in as I've mentioned, in its pure form. One significant thing that may perhaps be accounting for some of these things is the fact that there is a belief that the souls of all Asantes are captured in what we have as the golden stool. Okay, the golden stool, which was conjured from the heavens by the friend of Osei Tutu, called Okonfo Anochi. So that's what the oral tradition has it. So there's a belief that in conjuring the golden stool from the skies, the mystery surrounding it, the use of nails of the dignitaries that were present and putting all the captures the souls of all Asantes into the stool. And so a lot, like mentioned, we Asantes tend to hold a lot more allegiance to the golden stool and to the Asante Hene. So much so that even now, the Asante Hene tends to wield a lot of power in all facets of life, in so far as activities in the Asante region are concerned, right? It's important to note here that the political head of this kingdom comes from the Oyoko clan, okay? And that the original home of the Asantes is traced to a place that we call the Asante Manso. And they will develop into a strong union whose foundation were laid by the very early rulers, significantly, as I've mentioned, Osei Tutu the first, and then we talk about Opokuwari, and then the rest. So expansion and enlargement of the empire normally traced to Osei Tutu and Opokuwari. And then the others will come to deal with the internal matters to ensure that unity prevailed for the economies of Asante to also grow, right? The first remembered ruler that, as far as oral tradition will allow us to account for, was known as Chum Entry. And then he was followed by Kobia Amanfi, 1621 to 43. And Kobia was succeeded by Inoti Akende. And then Obri Yabua will also come in, and he established the capital of Asante at Paman. Obri Yabua was killed in an expedition against the people of Doma. Then we have King Osei Tutu. So the current king, right, is Osei Tutu the second. So what happens is that when one is installed, they go into a place that we call the dark room. And then they pick up a stool, and then they will take on the stool name. And so when he was installed 25 years ago, as he celebrates his anniversary in 1999, he went into the dark room and he picked up the name Osei Tutu. And so his birth name, Ajemai, the name? Yes, Nana Jemandua, was changed to the stool name Osei Tutu. And Osei Tutu the first was known for the following exploits, as I'm going to look at. So the first is expansion of Asante Empire. So he ruled from 1695 to 1717. And the story about his life is that, as traditions would demand, he was sent to the coast of Dentra, because Dentra was one time the overlords of the Asantes. And it was in Dentra that Osei Tutu will learn military strategies and political institutions. Having found himself in a conflicting situation because of having a relationship with a royal from the Dentra palace, Osei Tutu had to flee from Dentra, and then he went to Akwamu. So there are two key importance of a sojourn in Dentra, as the historical accounts will provide. That one, he learned the art of administration, because he will learn from the Dentras how they use their military to also expand and conquer other states. And then the fact that Okomfanochi, whom I mentioned, the traditional priest, he also met whilst he was in the courts at Dentra, who would later follow him to Asante when he came to occupy the Golden Stool. So Osetutu met Komfanoche, the great priest who later accompanied him into Asante and became his advisor at Dencha. So whilst at the court, these two benefits will come in. So after the death of Obri Yabua, Osetutu will then come to Asante and be installed as the king. And as mentioned, he will quickly move the capital of Asante from Paman to the present location of our palace at Kumasi, what we call the Manshia Palace. So this movement was inured by King Osetutu, and for good reasons, because Kumasi was a major trading center, because most of the trading routes were passing through Kumasi. And so it will allow the people to gain wealth by taxing those who plied the trade routes for economic expansions as well. And so for these reasons, the capital were relocated to Kumasi. And that gave Asante some economic power in terms of its ability to tax the people and use it to develop the region. Yeah, I've seen a message. Okay, Elizabeth. So we'll take our 10-minute break. And then when we come back, we'll take it up from here. Yes, thank you. Great.
Yes.
Elizabeth. Yeah, so we take our break.
Yes, that's fine, Doc. I'm here. Thank you.
Okay, all right. I guess it's, yes. Okay, can we start?
I'm ready.
Yes, I've seen that you've been waiting.
Yes.
Yes, I wanted to know if there are some further questions for the students. It appears that some of them want to take leave of us.
Maybe they have something to say. I don't mind. What, they tired for the day? Are they tired for the day?
Yes, actually, they are on vacation, and
Yes.
they came in for some supervision. They are final years writing their thesis.
Oh, yes. This is the holidays for them to work hard.
To work, yes. And
Yes.
so they were not even prepared for this. When they came, then I told them about it, that they were about to leave. And I convinced them to hang around. But the way they are looking at me now,
They're tired. I can understand.
Okay, we understand. Yeah, yeah,
yes,
well,
but
okay, we
so
understand.
Gaffa, the MPhil guy, will be here. But then if you have anything, they can respond to it before
Yeah,
they leave.
I started with this young girl before you came. She started
Okay.
asking question about the diaspora and the knowledge of the Ashanti mixture. And so we told her that we know that Surinamese been to Ghana and there were
Okay.
exchanges and that some some man went to Suriname and he went to the interior area and he spoke his language with one of these natives, with one of these clan kings or clan, how we call them, bashas or gramangs. And he was
Okay.
so flabbergasted and surprised that he started crying. But now I see that Lisbeth has put 2 of these episodes in the group app. So we can all enjoy it in the group app to see this documentary, this small, short documentary
Oh.
about the connection from Ghana to Suriname.
Suriname. Okay.
Yeah,
Yes. In
very
fact,
touching.
my MPhil student was also just telling me that he went online to do a Google search and then he came across the video.
Good. That is
Yes.
important to do. Search on Google. That's a
Yes.
good guy.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's how we should do it. To link up
Yes.
with one another, we just go to the World Wide Web.
Yes. And so he was just sharing that data with us. And so
Oh, so you can share it with the others. Yes.
yes. Yes.
Oh,
To
that's good. Nice. Very good.
Great. Where is Kenneth? I haven't heard from you today. Anything for my students?
Dr. Nemo. No, I'm still here. I'm listening actively, but no, not especially for this moment. So I'm happy to see them, and yes.
Yes. Important.
Oh, okay. Okay. So they can take leave of us if there's
Yes, of
Okay.
course.
Great. Thank you. So you guys, you can take this. That's why you can.
Do your best that we meet in the future. I tell them do your best that we meet in the future.
They've already. Okay, so
okay, you can tell
so
them.
I've asked them to come and say bye before they leave.
Nice talking to you.
Hello, I'll be back again.
Nice talking to you. Hope to meet you on a platform, an international platform to work together as Africans in the diaspora and Africans in the motherland. Okay?
Me too.
We have to work together. We have to work together. Nice talking to you.
Nice talking to you too.
Yeah.
Thank
I
you
would like
for
to
the
know more.
opportunity.
And I would like to know more about all your cultures, all these things that we miss here in the diaspora. So maybe it's also interesting to think about what you can mean for us in exchange programs, things like that, as
in future.
students, and also in the benefit of Africa, how you think about it. But I hope to meet all of you in the next time again.
Of course.
Thank you.
We have to link up with each other.
Exactly.
Take care. Take care.
Bye.
Bye bye.
That's it.
So I'll be here with my MPhil because he's under training, so he cannot he's a research assistant, so he's okay. So I was talking about
Asante onions.
Osei Tutu, Osei Tutu the first. So in order to seal the Asante Union, as I mentioned, Osei Tutu's friend, the one he got in Dentra, created for the nation the magic of the golden stool. And this generated in the people of Asante a sense of unity and a source of strength. And as I mentioned, the narrative is that the souls of all Asantes are captured in the golden stool. And as a result, the Otumfuo, that is Asante, does not actually sit on the golden stool. when he sits in state. The golden stool itself is placed on another stool besides the Otumfuo. So that the golden stool is not a sitting stool for the Asantehene, right? But then a symbol of the unity of Asantes, a symbol of the oneness of Asantes. And so when on occasions, as like the Akweside or Awukude, when he sits in state, then they bring out the golden stool and place it on another stool right besides him. Another event aimed at helping to solidarize the unity among the Asantes is the creation of the Odra Festival, which is an event on occasion that brings people from all the sub-polities of Asante, the provincial groups. So we have the Bantama groups, the Asafos, the Nsuta, people from Nsuta, Mampong, Jamase, Aguna, all of them are supposed to be present for the celebration of the Odra Festival. And as an opportunity to also help unite the people and then to mostly discuss and look at issues that will be beneficial to the people in the region. So Osei to enshrine the supreme power of the empire, also in a hierarchy of authority, with the Asantehene as the apex. So when you come to Asante, we have the Asantehene, the title Otumfuo, who is the head. And he's supported by the provincial chiefs, representing each of the polities, as I have mentioned. I think the next in line of the Asantehene is the Bantamahene, Bafuewa. And so normally when the Asante Traditional Council sits in state, the Otumfuo will allow all the provincial groups head, the kings, to have a say on the issues, and then he is often the final arbiter in these matters. It is also important to mention that ascension to the throne in Asante is through the matrilineal lineage or the kinship lineage through the mother's side. And I think this concept has been explained in the class already. However, in order to also strengthen the unity and ensure protection of the office of the Asantehene, Osei Tutu will go on to create some patrilineal stools in Kumasi division, especially for provincial groups that tended to place emphasis on the patrilineal heritage than the matrilineal groups. And so you have some other people who are not matrilineal in nature occupying some stools in the polity in Asante, all aimed at ensuring that there is some smooth running of state affairs in Asante. As I've mentioned, when it comes to expansion of the empire, we trace the activities or the leadership in that regard to Osei Tutu the First. And one of the famous battles that he had to fight was the battle against the people of Dentra. As I've mentioned, he was in the courts of the Dentra, and having run away to Akwamu and eventually coming down to succeed his uncle Obri Yabua. He will unite all politics under the Oyoko plan and then establish that hierarchy of control and power, and then begin to embark on expansion activities. And then he had to now take on Dentra. And the war with the Dentra will last from 1699 to 1701. Asante will emerge victorious in this battle, but after the battle and in an attempt to also conquer the people of Achim, whilst crossing the River Pra, snipers will take the life of Osei Tutu. And so one of the Asante Ntamkesie has always been that up until the time that Prempeh II had to cross the Pra, no Asante Hene was to cross the River Pra in order to avert the repetition of that event, which is a major issue in Asante history, when a king or Asante Hene had to die on his way back from battle, leading another force to attack the Achim people. Yes, as I've mentioned, Osei Tutu will defeat the Dentra people, and their king, Ntim Jatari, was killed in that battle. But when he was crossing the river in an attempt to also expand the territory to cover people of Achim, then he was shot at, and then he died in the process. He will then be succeeded by Asante Hene Opoku Ware the First. So he will rule from 1720 to 1750. And again, will continue the policies of Osei Tutu in trying to strengthen Asante unity. He will also embark on wars of expansion. And the aim here was to try and gain access or direct access to Europeans in the coast. And so he will subdue the Bono people in 1926 and also subjugate the Wassa people. Then he will move on to attack the Achims, who had taken out Osei Tutu and decisively killed 2 kings of the Achim people. So he was under King Opoku Ware that Asante will eventually have direct access to the coastal regions of modern Ghana and begin to directly have trading activities with Europeans at the coast. And in this vein, we know that the Dutch had monopoly of trade in the Azim areas on the coast. And so Asante will then begin to have access and direct economic relationship with these Europeans on the coast. So he extended his conquest to Akwamu and Ga-Dangme lands between 1741 and 1744, the period in which, as I've mentioned earlier, Asantes will begin to have some economic interactions with the Europeans on the coast. For that matter, looking at our relationship, the Dutch, the British, will then begin to have that direct interactions on the coast from 1744. Right. Do we have any questions up to now? My TA is here.
I have one.
Okay.
What about weaponry? You talk about they have so many more. Where did they get the weapons from? How much weapons they had? Where did they bought the weapons? Was the weapon exchanged with gold? I mean, so many wars going on all the time. And in the same period, slavery was going on also. So to me, it's so, yeah, so much going on, so confusing in this part of West Africa. Where did they do the trade with the Dutch for the guns and the ammunitions?
Yeah, so definitely with the contact with the Europeans, the one of the aims of trying to expand to the coast was to get access to the use of guns.
Yes.
For warfare purposes. Asantes were initially at a disadvantage because of the interior regions that they occupied. And so access to guns was always through middlemen.
Through middlemen.
Yes. And so by now having the direct access to the coastal region, they could then get enough guns, which aided their expansion in a way. Because hitherto, then they were using traditional methods, bows and arrows, and other guerrilla tactics in the forest zones to try and subdue the other groups that were around. But now having direct access and getting these guns, they will go on to begin to dominate the region. And so Asantes were also key players in the slave trading activities in the in that region. Yes, in that now with the weaponry and the ability to expand their territories beyond their immediate borders, they had captives, okay, that they will eventually want to also sell. And then, as I mentioned, some of the conquered states like German were required to supply some quantities of slaves to the region. In fact, the Germans were to supply about 300 slaves per annum. And then, yes, quickly, my dear wants to add that in the north too, in the northern part, the Gonjas were also required to.
So as Doc talked about, and if you look at in the case of the northern region, for instance, when what's the name, Opoko Wari, the first ascended the throne, he also subdued the people of the north, and actually he brought the Gonja, the Dogombes under their control, and they were made to pay in among some of the things they were engaging with them was slavery, to pay slaves to the chiefs or to the king, up until when was the name, the Sagrante War, and the Asante lost the war against the British Empire. That's when the Gombes or the people of the north had the opportunity to now move away, broke away from the Asantes. They were serving them. And looking at what Opoku did, most of his expansion was in the Asante history, was one of the biggest expansion in Asante history. Looking at how he was able to, within the period he took over from 1728 to 1750, You could see how he brought those in the coastal area, those in the north, even those within the interior Asantes who couldn't get an opportunity to be under the Asantes. You know, we understand that the Asantes area were under control by the Dentra and under from Obriabua. Then we come to the Osei reign, and Osei took Asante as an independent empire. They start to expand within the interior. And when Osei died in somewhere 1717, and Opokuwari, the first, came into the scene. So when they got to the scene within 1720 to 1750, and among some of the issues that came up within this period also was like, one of the things, particularly F.K. Boa highlighted, was talking about one of the key things he was able to do was to solve the internal unrest. Somewhere by 1717, when Osei died, there was an internal unrest within Asante. So Asante powerfulness was coming down, was going down very rapidly. But then how were they able to solve these issues? So you could see, as Doc mentioned about the friend of Osei who was Konfanoche, he quickly reorganized Asante to the Goldies to organize them, to bring those who were already under the Asante, to bring them under one unity. So F.K. Boy just made it that one of the key components, or one of the key things Opokuwari the first did was to solve the internal unrest. Then he kind of reorganize the Asante Kingdom, and they start to expand within his reign from 1728 to 1750. By this period, he was able to get to the Northern Territory, capture the Gonja, the Gomes, and go to the coastal areas. They started to trade. So if you look at the case of the coastal area, they wanted to trade directly with the British or with the Dutch then. And you could see this was the period of slave trade. So slave trade also, just like you're talking about the case of the weaponry. You know, Asantes or the people of the North or the indigenous people actually didn't have gun and gunpowder as the earlier form of use in their war tactics. But then one of the key things, I remember during our I'm sure lectures, one of the lecture made a clear statement, which was very true, that the Asantes, they have a saying that Okuma Pema Apembaba. That if you kill hundreds of them will come. But the question was that, yes, so but the question was that, was the Asantes, how was their population? Because before the Sagrante War, they fought a couple of wars with the British that they won those wars. But then how did they win the wars? That was the question. And you see, through that, you can see the Sagrante War, they used a tactics to be able to subdue the Asantes because they studied the Asante system to know that, no, this is the time that was supposed to go. The season counted. The season that they were supposed to go into the war with the Asantes really counted. And among one of the key things that the lecture talked about was the Asantes, they had a tactics that when they're facing their enemies, they'll hide and they'll get ropes on the trees. So when they'll tie ropes on the trees because, you know, Asante is a forest zone. So when they are coming as an enemy, when they are coming, because it's a forest zone, you don't see anywhere, you just come in, you get missing. So they'll be shaking. So they'll be shaking the trees. So those with the guns thought that the Asantes are on the trees. So they will start to shoot upwards.
In the trees,
yes. So you shoot and you exhaust all your bullets. So that
all your ammunition is gone.
Yes. They do not come in with their handmade tools to come and fight you. You see that the military tactics they used. But they felt like we come in, yes, because this is the person is using, your enemy is using a gun, it can stand far away and shoot you. But then they are coming without a gun. How do they get you? Because the bow and arrow, they have to get near you before they can put in, before they be able to win the battle. But then they felt like, no, then let's devise a new tactics. So among one of the tactics they used was trying to, when they are coming to the war, they will tie ropes on the trees because it's a forest zone. So when the enemy comes in, they'll be shaking. So when they shake, you might think that they are on the trees. So you'll be shooting on the trees. Once you shoot and your blood finish, then you have no place that time to do that trains and other roads that you could supply guns and gunpowder within short possible time. It will take a couple of days, weeks to get back to your
Yes.
yes, to get your guns and other things in this regard. But then looking at the tactics, you can see, as we were talking about, how do they get the weapons and other things. Aside the weapons, they get in touch with with the coastal areas. But then we see these military tactics, which were very laudable, as Asante was using to defeat their enemies. And looking at the population, Doc was talking about how Asantes dominated even in contemporary times. You could see these tactics they use against their enemies. Everywhere they could win battles, and they were able to subdue them and make them contribute to the success of the Asante kingdom. I think there are a lot that we can learn about this Asante relation with other internal protectorates and other kingdoms. So I think when Doc gets in touch, you talk more on this. So, like as earlier he talked about, he defeated what's the name? I'm still talking about Opokuwari. When you see that he defeated the people of Germany and who dispersed into Ivory Coast. So you can see today some part of the Akan found in Ivory Coast. And you can see it was due to Opokuwari's involvement with these people through their defeats, so they have to move. So just like in the case of South Africa, what happened during the Boer trek, what happened there when they were fighting internally, people have to move. The Shaka Zulu kingdom, how they were also dispersing. So that period too, you could see in the Asante region, within this period, you see within the Gold Coast, people also moving. When the strong one defeat the weak one will move on to find a new place. So as we discussed earlier, Gonja and the Gomez lands were as well as Karachi. So Karachi can be found in Volta region. So the Volta region, yes. So Volta region of Ghana, that's where we can find Karachi or Karachi. So that's the same Opokuwari, who was able to expand. So it's like he has expanded all over the country, north, Volta, eastern, western, all over to the coast. So aside that, we have after him, another king who succeeded Opokuwari was Ogodom, yes. So then came in Osai Kodu. So you see, these particular leaders didn't have much influence, though they had influence on the Asantes, but then not as much as compared to the earlier kings like Osei Tutu and that of Opokuwari, who had the opportunity to have expanded to these areas. So though they had that kind of influence, but then their influence was kind of little as compared to those earlier people. So another one is, aside its EU leadership, Asante also owed its greatness to its wealth in mineral deposits. So with this, I think we discuss about the minerals in Asante, particularly the gold. And we could see the gold gave Asante the ultimate power to be able to control in terms of the economy. Internally, they were able to control the economy because they had that resource, like the gold, which was even highly demanded somewhere in the Western world then, or in the European countries, when the British came in and other Dutch days, when they were coming in to the scene. You can see they want to trade with the Asantes because of the presence of gold. Most of these European countries got in touch with those in the coastal area earlier, because that was where their route to the Gold Coast area. So they were only on the coast, but then along the way, they actually moved into the interior because of the presence of gold, and gold was highly demanded in Europe by then. Aside slave trade within this period, gold was also highly demanded in the interior. And some also debate aside after what's the name, somewhere in the 20th century, how when they were building railways, getting to the interior to get the resource of the Asantes to the Western world, and why they didn't get some of the railways to the north, because northern region didn't have this presence of gold deposit. So much of the developmental project taking place by the Europeans focused within the interior because of the presence of this mineral deposit. So, and then the mineral deposit also gave the Asante the power, because once you're able to control the economy, even in recent time, in the world view, you could see the countries that have economic power have most control over a lot of stuff or within the world polity. So these days, the Asante stand out as the leading custodians of Ghana's cultural heritage. So I think so far what Doc discussed, which has based on how the Asante's kingdom has been over the years, we could learn that like to date, the Asantes still have in terms of the Asante kingdom, we could see they still hold to their cultural heritage, and we could learn a lot from that. You can see, as we were discussing earlier about this, their early kings, Osei and looking at the case of Opokuwari I, who had the prominence to expand to the north, to the Volta region, and to many other places in the Gold Coast. You can see how powerful they were and their culture. And once they are able to expand, of course, their culture will also follow them, and they'll spread all over. So I think this is what we're trying to talk about. Maybe if there's any other issue, then we talk, and when Doc comes, then you continue from there. Please, is there any issue so that we look at them, and then when it comes, then obviously continue the discussion. Should we continue the discussion?
Yes, that's
No,
fine.
I thought we would go on to the diaspora, the Ashanti kingdom connected with Suriname or not. Are we just talking tonight only about the Asante kingdom?
Okay, so please. That's how. Down with
Because it ended, I think.
Satata. So yes,
me.
sorry, I had to
No.
step out briefly. So we the plan was to present Asante to you today, and then we do the linkages, God willing, on Friday.
Okay, it's good.
And
It's
then,
okay.
And then on Friday, we will give you your term paper for you to begin to work on it for the next.
Yes. Nice.
So you will also come and do some presentations on us for us. Yes. So if there are any questions, we can take them. If you have anything that you still want to know about Asante and its culture, we want to exhaust that discussion before we bring about the connections.
So the Asante had lots of enemies. If I look at the wars they had all around them. Or not? Talk to me. Explain it to me. Or you had collaborators with them also.
Yes, they are not the most fun or loving people in Ghana now.
Still?
Yes, I mean, like you said, they have a lot of enemies. It's not
I thought
like
about I'm thinking way back, not today, way back then I'm thinking about, but now if you're bringing it up till
no.
today,
Even
even to
now, there is some
okay.
nostalgia. There is some nostalgia about them. Recently, there's been a case between Asantehene and the Domahene, one of the historically conquered groups in the past.
Mm.
And they are trying to sort of be free from that historical event, which basically meant that they should be part and they should continue to serve the Asantehene.
Mm.
To the extent that historically the Doma people will not allow their women to marry anybody who is Asante.
Wow. Up till today?
Now the dynamics are changing because of migration and so forth and so on. But that is the rule. Subconsciously, those things are there. And so if a woman should take somebody home and then it is declared that the person is an Asante, and if you are not lucky and these people are entrenched in tradition and culture, they will not sanction such.
Allowed it. But the root what is the root problem for this? Because we're now in the 21st, we have 21st.
So for the Domas, they claim that the Asantes were humiliating their king.
Oh,
so
there is it.
What happened was that when they were conquered, their chief was brought down to Kumasi and he was to serve in the Asante palace. But the role that was allocated to him was to be the entertainer. He was to entertain he was to entertain the Asante king. And they felt that that was humiliating to them. And so these Doma people will now lead the cessation of Asante region from the Bono region. We used to have the two regions together.
Yes.
But because of these happenings, they will lead for Bono Ahafo to then be separated from Asante. Remember, I mentioned the beginning that Akans orally will trace their origin to Bono. But then the Doma people will aid in this cessation. And even now, even the Bono region has also been separated from Ahafo. So there have been, even though this is entrenched in history, in contemporary societies, you have some of these things coming up whenever there is some conflict between these two polities. Yeah. So yes, the Asantes, they are not the most loving people in the region, even currently. Yeah.
But we can unite or not. We have to change our ways in Africa about all these things. I mean, I feel terrible that you kicked my leg or you took my cat or you took my dog. I mean, we should go on a higher spiritual level to reason with each other and to stop this what like division, what we call sub putting people under people like subgroups and all like that. We all are one. We should make the Ubuntu feeling come back together between us. So who's going to help to be a middleman in this conflict, for instance? Which group?
The states is sort of doing its best to ensure that we minimize these divisions entrenched in our history. But it's difficult. We've not been able to really achieve that. As I've mentioned, in all facets of our lives, even today, these divisions continue to come up. So for instance, in the political space as we have now, one of the major political parties, which is the MPP, that is the government in power.
Yes.
They now have a presidential candidate who is from the northern part. And they did that historically because the party has been seen as an Akan party. So in order to change that perception, they have voted for somebody from the north to lead the party now, which is an effort to sort of unite. However, the leadership of the party and the people in it continue to insist that the vice president should be an Asante.
Okay, there you go again. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, leave it for the people to make the vote themselves. You know what I mean? Present
Yes.
yourself, and then we will make a choice. But don't put people on hand, on front, to say he's going to be the president. Let the people make the choice. Why can't we do that? I mean, that's old African democracy, you know, by everybody, all clans come together, make decisions together. I mean, I wanted to go back to the way before slavery, before the Arabs even. We had such a good Ubuntu way, Ma'at, all that was in place. How do we go back there?
I mean, so we are, as I said, led by the state.
Yes.
We are trying to use patriotic songs, events to try to unite.
Beautiful.
But even within the groups, as I mentioned, if you take even the Akans, Fantis, Asantis, there is still always some level of animosity, which is often based on ethnicity. So, for instance, they chastise the Asante king as trying to be too powerful.
Yes.
And recently, again, you see the Achim people are also trying to accentuate the office of the Achim Mangene, Oforiata, right? Yes, Oforiata to almost the same status as the Asante, but it is also not working. So it's difficult. I mean, the undertones are there. I'm sure it's still going to be there, but we may need to find a way to let the divisions, because again, when you look at it, there is a lot that we can harness from the different groups to develop our polity than that
work
which
together.
divides.
Yes, I believe
but I don't know. Unfortunately, the attempt to have a nation state, okay, is quite still very difficult. Not to also mention that recently the Evers, those who were part of the Togoland, have also tried to succeed from Ghana, trying to gain some form of independence from the region of modern Ghana. To a large extent, the state has been able to control that. But as I mentioned, people still identify more with their linguistic groups than seeing themselves as Ghanaians.
Oh, yes.
And working towards that. How we will do it, I'm sure Kenneth can share some views on that.
How to make the mind shift to become one nation.
Yes, Kenneth, how do
I
we do
had a different thought or question about the Ashanti expansion.
Okay.
You mentioned how it had expanded, but also then I was wondering, did during the expansion also the I call it the spiritual system or religious system that was part of the Asante
system,
was it also expanded? Because you see with other religious systems like Christianity or Muslim faith, they try to convert the people to that specific faith, and then have the people use the same norms and values within that faith. So when the Ashanti expansion took place, their spirituality and religious belief, did they ever try to also, yes, not really convert, but at least expand the way they were seeing the way of life and experiencing life as it is and life stages?
Go back to the old ways.
Okay, so I'm yet to find an academic paper on that, looking at a conscious effort to also expand the religion. However, you will notice that all these groups almost share the same form of religion, that the African traditional religion, or yes, that they all believe in the supreme being, calling their God by different names in terms of the language, but in terms of concept, they are referring to the same thing, right? And then the mode or the medium of approaching the supreme being tend to be almost the same. So for instance, as I mentioned, Okonvanochi, in the case of Asante, the Fantis also have their chief priests. Recently, the story, and when my teaching as my MPhil student was speaking about this marriage thing, if you followed, I think we mentioned this in class, that it was a marriage that was entwined in tradition, and it was led by the chief priest or the Olomoy of the Fantis. And so I'm not aware of a conscious effort beyond expanding territories and gaining some economic advantage. I'm not aware of studies that shows whether consciously they also try to expand the Asante tradition onto the others. But you see the religious tradition sharing some similarities in the region of modern Ghana. For instance, all of them will summon you to a river god if you do something that yes, that is bad. Or more at Asante Beka say Mebodia. They will curse you. And it permeates. Okay, so in every polity, they have some river bodies that they know that is inhabited by gods. And normally they will call on the name of these gods.
Oh yeah.
To curse you, and it works. It just so happens that some deities have become more popular in Ghana, and it's across. So I don't know if there's a conscious effort, because the people of the Ghana, Dangbe, all over the place. I don't know whether in the north they still mention Antoine. But in Asante, there is a river god named Antoine. That, yes, Antoine, that to date, they call on that name to sanction people who do that which is wrong. And you see people moving from the churches on Sunday to the river god for cleansing. Otherwise, you are in trouble. So I don't know whether consciously they pushed for that, but you see these similarities there, and perhaps it will be an interesting field for us to, as academics, begin to also look at to see if consciously the state decided to do that. What we know they tried to do consciously was to impose their political system of organizing the people onto the local communities. That was done consciously. So
yeah, you see often that when one of the countries expand, then they often change the language or the religious beliefs of the
Yes.
regions that they conquer or expand into. So yes,
Yes.
and after that, actually, sometimes from the top down, there's like a standardization around the beliefs, and that
Okay.
helps actually to build a nation. So that is something that maybe hasn't been done, and therefore all these different communities still exist until today.
Yeah.
And yeah, so building the nation sometimes has to be an effort top down, and conscious effort.
Yeah.
At least, yes, grow.
But then the top must be conscious. Because when I look around myself today in the world, the top of our presidents and all these people, they're not conscious about what they're doing for their communities or what the communities need.
Well, if you
Sometimes it's people in the middle,
Yeah.
on the top, from under up, that has to talk to the top from, hey, listen, you're not living our lives. You don't know what we go through. So I don't know if it's always has to do that the government or the system has to impose.
Yeah, because I was thinking, I did a trip in Washington in the US, and then suddenly you do see like a conscious nation building with all these big monuments. I don't know how they are called. So the Korean monument and Jefferson, and they have a plate where for Martin Luther King also, where he spoke to the people during the 63 March, etc. So there you see definitely a conscious effort to build a nation and bring people from all sides into one thought, one idea about land of the home and the brave, etc. Well, I think Lashanda knows exactly better than I do what the conscious effort is in the US to bring people together.
Well, I don't know if all these church people are conscious people or like Martin Luther King and all that. I don't know.
No, I mean,
It's
top
just
down. Yeah, I mean, top down, the government did do an effort, especially
Yes,
talk
yes.
about they did do an effort there.
I couldn't join the class on independent movements, but I'm sure Professor might have mentioned Dr. Kwame Nkrumah's effort in the region of modern Ghana. And you see consciously that attempt to try and unite the people for that common cause and common goal, and he was a populist guy. So
Successful.
yes, as I've mentioned, the state tries to lead that, but
does it conflict with the existing structure of the of the belief? So
yes,
and it's
is
it a power struggle? Is it a power struggle now?
Yes.
Is it a power struggle from the between Osei Tutu II and the current
president
of Ghana?
Not we haven't we haven't gotten to that point. They are all sort of managing things from different angles, and so we haven't gotten to the point where you see that there's a direct conflict between the two. So that the traditional council does accept the modern system of governance and that the president is whatever. However, the Otunfo is almost like a kingmaker, because anytime we've had challenges with our election results, he's the arbiter. Yes. So he's calling on political parties to his palace to sign memorandums here and there and leading those discourses there. So he does recognize the role of the political head in modern governance, but then he has his own control. Like, for instance, when he says that no court in Ghana can overturn his decisions. that will appear to be that then there is a serious conflict between him and the state, because that is a serious statement to make. However, he's been a statesman for now, and so we don't see the direct conflict. What some historians have argued here is that if that expansion by the Asantes had not been truncated with the coming of the Europeans, and for that matter, the British, then perhaps the language would have changed with time.
For sure.
Then perhaps the religion would have also been expanded, and then we will have a Ghana, in quote, that would have probably with time eliminated the differences that exist and have one polity to be able to do that we want. But when that process was truncated, and you know that eventually the British would then war the Asantes, eventually reducing their economic power and control, and allowing some of the other groups to also gain some degree. Then all these processes were truncated. We have not been able to, as a people,
the same divide and conquer rules they applied again. They came with a strategic plan again, and they did it again.
Yeah.
We must see through that now. We must see through that now as a people, that these people, they will never love us, they will never change, and we have to throw away all their values aboard from Africa. Why do we want European values still? Look what they do to us, still doing to us. Africa need to kick them all out.
Yeah. Maureen, yes. Can I
Come on,
hear
Maureen,
you?
fire me up. Come on, Maureen, fire me up.
First of all, I'm a little bit in shock again about the part of the Ashanti in the slavery time. It is something we still have to repair, we ourselves, because I'm more focused on our self-repair part.
Healing,
and that we have to talk open about it. And also I always say global, because the Ashantis, not only the Ashantis open the door for all these European people,
all these Europeans to come in,
but there are more African people. So we have to start to talk about that today, also with our students, because if we don't recognize these things and be honest with each other about it, we will still open the door for this type of system and all these things. You see, so for this, I'm still shocked that we are still not going deeper and deeper about this.
Our ways, our own ways.
In a historian way, in a cultural way, in a spiritual way, in an economic way, etc., etc. So that is one thing I really, I think it's time now. Not I think, it is time now. Secondly, what is also important, we ourselves have to do our research too, because most of the information is from a European point of view. And even oral historian part, we don't know so much wherever we are. So I really need this type of information. Even if it is oral history from 2024, we can still look in a point of way like it was before slavery. Just like some of them say the Mahat, all these things that it's very important to us to come back to our roots. So I love this lecture a lot, because I'm learning about the type of groups and the languages that they spoke. But I'm very interested about what happened when we went out of Africa. What are the things they were doing? How did they seek for us? What were the thoughts?
What were the
what
worries?
happened in the clans, in the group? I'm very interesting about this type of information, because for sure I know that our ancestors did some things. They didn't let it happen just like this in a system. So what kind of information we have in the historian way about this? Are there lectures about it? Are there books, I can read about it. I'm very curious about it.
Sure, Maureen. I don't know where to start from, but then definitely what happened when, yes, people left the shores of Africa, the role of Asantes in the slave trade, the need to have these conversations. We need to establish that until 1874, when the British were able to enter Kumasi and Asante and run the place down, and then up until 1901, when after the Yasantua War, the region of Asante was brought together with the coastal region, and we have the northern sector also coming in to give us what we have as Ghana today. Asantes were not directly trading in slaves with the Europeans. Of course, they were getting slave supplies for domestic duties and farming activities from the people of the northern region. But because of the expansion in commerce and the premium that was gradually placed on human beings instead of the export of gold and the raw materials, they will also get involved in these slave trading activities. Yes, so we all have roles that we play. So on the role of Asantes in the slave trade activities, I think I've already shared that the document is not available online, but Akosia Pebi, who is a Ghanaian, a lecturer at the University of Ghana, has written extensively on indigenous slavery in Ghana. That Maureen, I can share the detailed reference with you and to see if you can have access to it to read.
Thank you.
Elizabeth, let me bring you to the class.
Sure, I'm here, Doc.
Your opinions, perspectives.
I keep thinking about, I don't know if it's an opinion.
Elizabeth, if I may, recently the lecture that was given about, okay, all right.
So that's a very good one. Thank you for reminding me that. So
okay.
Last week, the ambassador of Suriname, I invited her to come to my school and to give a lecture on the Ghanaian traces in the Maroon culture. And it's I've shared the link in our WhatsApp group. It's just that there something went wrong with the live streaming. So what is now being shared is the last hour. Okay. So we were missing the first part, but I'm trying to get the first part from somebody else, a television crew who was there as well. Anyway, having said that, it was a great lecture, and it was a great lecture because she was able, also because of the way she speaks, and from beginning to end, she came with numerous examples where we can see the Ghanaian traces in the Maroon culture. She was talking about names, cloth, customs.
Yes.
Really, did you see it, Doc? Did you see the video?
Yes.
I've seen it myself.
Yes.
So, and what was probably not what you couldn't see in the video maybe is how captivating the audience was. So really amazed, surprised, delighted, shocked. And it was really an incredible moment to see that, where, you know, the Ghanaians recognize themselves in the Surinamese in the
Nice.
Surinamese culture. It's great. So I'm really I hope I'll be able to have a better footage of that one, and I'll share it with you.
Okay.
Please.
And then during the conversation, during this lecture, I was thinking about a confrontation that I have witnessed in Amsterdam years ago. There was a book presentation, and a white Dutch journalist had written a book about Elmina Castle and Elmina, the place Elmina, and how many Dutch traces there are. And for his book presentation, he had asked a Ghanaian journalist to come and join him and to talk about, I'm not sure what her role exactly was, but probably also to talk about how come especially the Ashanti people were trading in slaves and were trading with the European powers in slaves. That whole book presentation became really something, because it became a confrontation between the Surinamese people who were, that was the majority.
Okay.
Yes. But with the Ghanaian journalist, and the Ghanaian journalist, I happen to know her personally. She's, she was just there to join the historical narrative, but she got all kinds of questions. People asking her why did the Ashantis do that? Didn't they know what they were, they were telling their own brothers
Elizabeth,
and
she was
sisters.
very rude. She said, if it would happen again, I would do it again. You remember
Really?
that part? Yes. She said that about slavery. If I would have the if you remember that she said that.
She's a Ghanaian journalist who grew up in Holland. So I'm not sure if we're talking about the same book
Oh no, this one came out of Africa. This one came out of Africa with the king then. He was in a television program.
No.
This is another one. This is another one. Go on with your story.
Yeah. And she doesn't have that point of view. She was just shocked by the fact that she pushed in the corner and had to defend the Ashantis.
Yeah. Yeah.
Participated in that trade. So it was a very interesting dynamic to see. But of course, it showed you how deep it still goes, how deep how deep the sentiment is, even though we're talking about a past that no longer exists. If we don't, if we don't fill in those blank spots, people could still be angry with the Ashanti people. And you had the same.
Yeah.
You could see the same confrontation in the film Katibo Yeye, where the filmmaker himself put down his camera and started talking to the chief and tried to explain to the chief, listen, this is what happened to us. So you can now embrace us, but it's not really, it's not only a happy homecoming. We also have to talk about why did you sell us?
Pain. Yes.
So that's what I was thinking about while I was listening to the lecture. So I don't know if it's or a comment, but it's just I think that's why it's important that we have moments like this where come together with Surinamese
filter.
Not to blame anybody, but just to understand what happened to us, and also understand what happened because of the brain drain, what happened to the kingdom and Ghana as a whole.
Yeah. Thank you, Elizabeth. So please, class, let's do well to also watch the video, because that is our discussion for next Friday. And yes, we are all saying that there's a need to have these conversations. The role of Asante in the slave trade inactivities. As I mentioned when we started the team on the slave trade, why Yes, if probably they limited the activity to the identifiable group of, let's say, prisoners or yes, the prisoners who in the domestic enclave were being sold into slavery for domestic job, then perhaps they couldn't have been blamed. But to the extent that you wage war and then you kidnap and you do all that just to get people to sell them to the white man, and what did they get in return? It was basically gin and guns and a few upholsteries. So yes,
They make them drunk all the time.
these conversations, we need to continue to have them, and yes, we have the opportunity to discuss and to look at it. And so as I design the term paper, the format of it, these are some of the things that we all have within the next 3 weeks to try and research on. Yes.
I wanted to
yeah,
I wanted to like revisit something when you were talking about like the water gods, and there was a question of why the Shanti didn't like try to like, I guess, get people into their religion, and that wasn't a part of their mission. As I'm starting to learn from the elder men in my family about the Winti culture, which we have in Suriname, I understand it's understood that you never drag anybody into it, right? So like from my father and my mother, they practiced, but as a child, I was never dragged into the culture. I wasn't forced to do anything. It's just not a part of it. It's supposed to naturally come into the spirit. Even when we have our events, the spirit naturally just comes to people. You don't go seeking for the spirit to come to you. And then we also have the water spirits, what we call Watara Kromanti and the Watara Ingi. Yeah, so those we have those different we also have the same concept of like based on the different elements of earth, sky, forest, water. So I just found it interesting that we, even with that mindset, is still transformed into, at least in Suriname, that concept is there. You wouldn't see somebody trying to convert somebody into the Winti culture. It's not a part of the concept. Like you don't, people just naturally gravitate. You'll see white people, you'll see all kinds of people gravitate to it, but they're not forced into it or asked to come into it or made to see like this is the right way or anything like that.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. And it's same here. So growing up in my village, in Gamase, almost every household had its own god. So yes, one was not necessarily coerced into believing in the other one, but then you had there was a family god that they did things, and like you said, it was the gods that picked on people who will serve in the shrines for those purposes. And so perhaps that is why consciously people will not put in a policy directly at influencing other people to join their religion. Because as I mentioned, as an Asante growing up in the village, there were family gods that our fathers used to pour libations to, and then the spirits picked on people who were the priestesses and the priests that served in those days. But yes, growing up, everybody else was also allowed to do whatever they wanted to do, and that's how come. Yes, so I think that perhaps it's because of that unlike the Christians and the Muslims, our people wouldn't make that conscious effort at ensuring that everybody will sort of take on the same religion. Yeah, it's powerful. Thank you. I think we are running out of time. Letitia, I want to hear your voice.
Letitia.
You want to
Yes.
hear mine for?
Yes. And your opinion?
Look, I've already said the last time that I'm not probably someone who like the history of another country. Also, not my country. I'm not interested in history lecturer, but because I have to do this to do the follow-up courses, I have done this. So every time I'm logged in, but it is interesting to hear about how every country or some of the country in Africa has gone through a situation like slavery. And last time I found the lecturer of the previous person about the trafficking in person, how slavery can end up in trafficking in person. I like that also. But I like to listen more than participate in the discussion.
Oh, okay. All right. So yes, but that's fine. But yes, I'm happy that you are following the lectures, and at least you've indicated some of the themes that are of interest to you. However, yes, we say that everything has a history, and sometimes the decisions that we are making today, as I indicated in the class, some of them have historical undertones. In fact, almost everything that we do now. And so
yes, I recognize some of the issues was mentioned in the during during your lecturer, but I saw that some of them also has some situation in Suriname until now, and most important part the Black people, and I think we have to live with it and try to look for solutions that make us part of the world where we can move on and try to be the better person in the future.
Okay, right. Thank you. So yes, if there are no further questions, can we, Letitia, can we have a closure and then we, oh, Kenneth, I'm listening.
Yes, I did have a question because the time period we discussed today, for you, it was the time period actually, the centuries of, I call it the Enlightenment and the technological industrialization period, with where they just expanded some of their knowledge and worldview. Did any of that have effect on the Ashanti Empire and Ashanti expansion? Did there were any changes in technological uses, or while Europe was undergoing this whole switch for enlightenment and trying to do some things more scientific? Was there ever any communication? Because I do remember the Dutch celebrated 300 years of trade with Ghana, and then actually it was 300 years trade with Ashanti, because the the second came to the Netherlands and not the president of Ghana. But so they said 300 years of trade with Ghana.
Yes.
So they did have contacts and exchange of ideas. So all these ideas that were developed in that specific period in Europe, did anything touch ground in the Ashanti Empire, or did any of the technological revolutions that they made at that moment also in Europe also landed, or they just were completely separate and only exchange ideas on the point of trade?
Right. So for instance, in terms of communication, at least looking at the period that I'm examining, I've mentioned that up until the 1874, up until 1844, there was no direct link between the Europeans on the coastal plain and then Asantis in the interior. So it was after that. But then, so in terms of communication, prior to the Europeans establishing some control over the region, the people continued to use drums and instruments as a medium of communicating messages over long ranges. So it was later that telephony and all of that became were introduced into the region, and then our people would then quickly begin to adapt to it. In terms of technology, yes, we know that the slave trade will slow down. For instance, gold production, and so the adoption of modern methods of mining will delay again up until the early 19th century, when you see people beginning to adopt the use of these things. Otherwise, production was still based on the use of basic, very, very basic raw materials that were used in the production activities. So technology-wise, you have a limited adoption. Looking at the period that I'm looking at, Asante expansion period, as I've seen, you've seen the dates that I've placed around, you don't see any form of this modern technology that existed in the period over that I'm looking at.
But are you now saying that actually the slave trade also slowed down the technological advantages that a community
because it will reduce, you see, emphasis was now placed on the export of human beings and not on basic raw materials. So no need to sort of invest in adding value to domestic raw materials. And basically we have become dependent on European manufactured goods. And so that effort to sort of apply technology to enhance production was not there. And that is why our economies, as it was assumed into the global politics, have continued to remain a primary exporter.
Yeah, because especially in that period, with the money they made, Europe made significant steps in agriculture, manufacture, transportation, communication, etc. And although Ashanti participated in the human trade, they didn't make any of these steps that the Western European countries made.
Yes, emphasis was shifted from the production of these goods to capturing and selling human beings. And of course, that atmosphere itself will create some chaos. And so the statistics will show that output of gold and all those things will go down as a result of some of these activities. And so if we are looking at technology, the only thing probably that we can lay our hands on will be the fact that they introduced the guns, which was a new technique in terms of warfare.
But still, they were just consumers of the gun technology and not producers.
Yes, and not producers. Yes, yeah. we came to consume the technology, and then that is still the bane. Like if you look at all these apps now, internet apps and so forth and so on, we are still consumers to a very large extent, and so our people keep on spending money on WhatsApp and all of that, and we are not making any money out of it, but we keep on consuming. We are those who stay on phone for a very long time and are paying, and it's almost unconscious to most people. The last time I checked, some of my students are spending so much money on TikTok and all those things, but nobody, as indigenous, we are not really the ones developing these apps, and so we are not also enjoying from it.
So next to understanding the history, we also have to make some significant steps in technology, so that people can become again producers and innovators, and then make change the I call it the global system as is at this moment.
Yes. There was an attempt, after the end of the slave trade. That's when we say we moved to what we call legitimate trading. The attempts to introduce the production of these cash crops, cocoa, and so forth and so on. However, all these things that came up was also to serve the European market, and so in terms of value addition, non-existent. And so up to now, we send our gold, our cocoa in the raw form in those bags to Europe, and then we buy chocolate from there.
So in one of the articles, we did read that Kwame Nkrumah, he had this idea for the electricity generating, but he had to invest a lot of money. But it also cost him a little bit the support of the public, because investing money and not seeing direct returns can hurt you.
I think what was wrong with that policy was the focus on import substitution industrialization. Essentially, the aim of Nkrumah was to produce for the domestic economy what we use to import. But instead of looking at industrialization that will also serve the international market, so that you get the needed resources to fund the businesses. And so we were caught up in that web where the state was spending millions of money to import the machines that were needed for the production of these goods that were only serving the local communities, okay? And so no export to sort of recoup the amount of money that had been sent outside to get these machines. And so we ended up having a deficit on our balance sheets. And that is the reason why the people will get angry eventually, and then leading to the overthrow. That focus on import substitution. So we were only building the industries to produce goods that we previously imported. But every raw material for that production activity was still being imported from Europe. So how are you going to pay for it? So now the attempt is to industrialize with the view of exporting, so export-led industrialization, so that we can recoup the money, because we are not making the machines, we are still buying. And so if you cannot sell to the European market and make some of the hard currency, then we'll still be where we are. So that is the direction that the
But
state is trying to. Okay.
doesn't, sorry to cut you.
No, Lasha,
Doesn't
yes.
industrialization come with a price? Because when even Europe, they know they've moved away from the actual manufacturing. Some places you still see like things like textile. I think they still do in the Netherlands, but for the most
Okay.
part, everything is outsourced to Asia. And the way that they have a larger populace, and they use majority, some of it, or majority of it, towards the manufacturing of goods, and it requires them to violate people's human rights in the process of it.
That's
So
right.
by saying like, let's bring everything internal, it could be a conversation once again about exploitation and human
Right.
rights for the people of
Yeah.
color in Africa.
It's still going on, yes.
Yeah. You're right.
And before that, it was the exploitation. At least in America, I know it was the exploitation of children and women to basically back this manufacturing process that was going on, and then they
in Europe.
outsourced it.
Yeah. But then again, the challenge that we have is that exporting the basic raw materials in its form, in its natural form to Europe is not helping our books.
Not at all.
So the debt crisis on the continent, it keeps on getting worse by the day. I think the other challenge that we have currently is the fact that we have developed so much for European goods, taste for European goods, to the extent that we are not even patronizing made in Ghana goods. Yeah, our own people. So it's challenging. We are trying to conduct a study on sustainable industrialization in Ghana. We realize that most of the industries that were established within some few years, maximum sort of 15, 12 years, they go down. And so we don't have,
it's true.
We don't have industries in the state of Coca-Cola, for instance, which has been in business for several years.
More than years
we
now.
don't have some. We don't have some in our country. And we are now trying to find out research and see how even local banks, as at now, there is no indigenous Ghanaian commercial bank that is operational.
Unbelievable.
Every bank that is in the country now is owned by
foreign bank.
Foreigners.
So essentially, it's still
we have a lot
colonialism.
of work to do. We have a lot of work to do.
The country's only free in name and maybe constitution, but when you think about the things that matter, when it comes to actual real resources and how you sustain the country, they don't own it. And it's the same thing with any Black nation. When we look at it now, not only on the continent, but we come off the continent, most Black countries are not self-sustained. I think maybe Ethiopia they have their own airline, and maybe that's even sullied by now. Who knows? But we don't.
Chinese are taking over in Ethiopia also.
Yeah, so when they talked about how they transitioned the powers and how they educated the people who then came in to hold these high offices were educated in Europe, and how they then keep and people are like, oh, look at the corruption, but the corruption is not of the land. It's something that was bred outside when they educated these young men and women outside of the country in European countries, and made sure that they always made in their mind, even they show up as Black faces, they prioritize the needs of European government and Western government and what is needed for Western government, so that they could sustain their relationships. They keep that going, right? You one hand washes the other. Like they're giving me this, they allow my children to come here, they allow me to do this and that. I don't want to upset them. My family's living good, so they don't see the overall good for everybody.
Yeah. It's
education.
Yeah, so yeah, we got the political freedom, but perhaps we should have gotten for the economic freedom before. But that is what we work on now, because yes, it's challenging, but
Freedom mind.
yes, we continue to explore to see how we can better our lives going forward. Yes. Yes, so it's time. Lisbeth, I'm going to work on the term paper. It's already been developed here. And then I'll share the criteria for assessment, and I hope to make it available before the next class. We'll deal with it and ensure that everybody is sure of exactly what to do. And then we'll have
Thank you.
the discussion on the relationship as well, God willing, on Friday. I
Okay,
wish
that's
you
awesome. Yes. But what did you want us to read? Or you were mentioning you want us to watch a video before Friday, or?
Yes.
Yes, you watch the video. I've also shared the book title on I think the 300 years of relation between the Netherlands and Ghana. I think I've shared that reference with you. These books will do. If you want me to resend it to, I'll do that.
I'm checking right now because I don't think I have that.
Oh, okay. Then, but if you check the course outline, it's there. For the last team, the recommended reading is there.
The African diaspora, African origins, and new world identities. That's what I have.
Yes.
So where's the 300 years then? The 300
Oh,
years.
So it's not there. It's not on the course outline.
What I have here is April 23, April 26, Asante-Surinamese relations, and then I have two titles, Between Africa and the Caribbean, and the other one, The African Diaspora, African Origin, and New World Identities. So I don't have the 300 years.
Okay. Then let me share that with you quickly.
Yes, please do.
Okay.
Yes. But was there also a video that you wanted us to see, or that is the video?
Oh, your video, and then the one on YouTube about the King's visit. I think somebody has already shared it in the class.
That's what Kenneth has shared, right?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
The film.
Come again?
Film?
The Katibo Yeye film.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Or is it this is another one? Okay. Okay. Sure, I've shared it, or I've already shared it for the class. I've already shared it in the WhatsApp group.
Oh, thank you so much.
Okay.
The two links is in the WhatsApp group, and then I will still receive
the other one. Okay.
Yeah. Then they were good to go.
Okay. Right. Thank you.
I'm looking forward.
Thank you.
Right. Okay.
Thank you.
Good night then. Bye.
Nice to think about. Nice talking to you tonight. Bye bye.
Yes. Thank you.
And
nice
and your fellow friend
and my
also.
student.
Yeah, your student. Bye bye. Nice talking to you. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.